Welcome back to Assassin's Creed: The Complete Story. Today we're going to continue our lesson on Ezio Auditore. When we last left off, Ezio was the prophet of the assassins, and he was supposed to lead them to uncovering Altaire's codex. How can he do it? Well, I suppose that's what we're here to find out. How would you feel if you went from being a vengeful assassin to the almighty prophet of the assassins? Do you think it's kind of a tall order for Ezio? Shortly after being inducted into the Assassins and being informed of his destiny, Ezio took the apple to Leonardo da Vinci to see if perhaps he could sort this whole thing out. Leonardo looked over the apple, but he couldn't figure anything out other than the fact that it was made out of a metal that shouldn't exist. Because of the unique nature of the apple, it was suggested that it be moved and placed under the protection of an ally of the Assassins. This leads to an adventure in which Ezio has to aid the Assassin's ally, but at the end, the apple is stolen by a monk missing one of his fingers, and Ezio has been stabbed in the stomach. After recovering from his injury, Ezio goes in disguise to the local abbey, and he gets the name of the monk who stole the apple from him and the rest of the assassins: Geronimo Savonarola. But before Ezio can move on finding this man, he learns from an ally at the Thieves Guild that Rodrigo Borgia will be involved in a meeting really soon. Hoping to catch up with his nemesis, Ezio chases after him and learns that Borgia is sailing to the west. Ezio teams up with Christopher Columbus and helps secure the atlas, giving directions to the New World, and returns it to Columbus. Though while it was rather important for him to help Columbus find the New World, he didn't actually find Borgia, and so he bids Columbus a farewell. His final words are that he'd like to hear about the journey to find the New World should he ever return to this area. Upon returning back to Italy, Ezio went right back to looking for the Apple of Eden and decided to return to his home in Florence. As luck would have it, he would bump into a monk being chased by the Borgia guards, asking the monk for an apple. Ezio realized that while he was gone, the Borgia men had begun searching for Savonarola also, and that he had better hasten his search if he was going to beat them to it. He would eventually track down Savonarola's cousin, and due to the information given, he would begin chasing the man all over, speaking with preachers, old friends, and killing a herald. He would eventually learn that Savonarola had placed himself in some form of power back in Florence, and once again returned to his home city. Ezio decided that he would need to kill off the 9 lieutenants to get to Savonarola, but as he learned quickly, Savonarola was onto him and attacking his friends and family. Panicked, Ezio would rush over to find Christina, his lover from earlier. While he managed to stop her attackers, he was too late, and she was bleeding to death. She looked up to him and said that she wished that they had had just a second chance, and then she died in his arms. Furious, Ezio would storm Savonarola's base, but luckily for him, the residents of Florence were growing tired of Savonarola and had already begun storming the base for him. Ezio slipped in, and before Savonarola could quell the crowd, he would throw a dagger, knocking the Apple of Eden to the ground. One of Borgia's men grabbed it and ran, but he wasn't fast enough to get away from Ezio. Savonarola was sentenced to be burned at the stake for controlling Florence, but Ezio decided to show mercy, as no one should ever have to suffer that agony. And he leapt from above during the execution, and landed on the platform, putting an end to Savonarola. This would lead to a powerful speech from Ezio about doing what you want, following your own path, and relying on your own thoughts. Do not allow yourself to be told what to do by the ones in power. With that, Ezio left with his friends to finally solve the riddle of what is this Apple of Eden. After all of his journeys, the assassins came together once again, and now they had the apple, and over the course of this entire adventure, a completed codex from Altair. They both revealed the location of a first civilization vault underneath Rome, underneath the Vatican. Ezio went straight to the Vatican and was confronted by Borgia, but he was blasted away by the Staff of Eden before he could make a move. The two men finally had their duel, with each using the power of their own piece of Eden. Ezio with the power of the Apple of Eden, and Borgia with the power of the Staff of Eden. Of course, Ezio survived in the end, or we wouldn't have any more games. Upon defeating Rodrigo, he decided to spare him, because Ezio had finally realized how useless revenge really was. And so with that, Ezio found the vault, and he entered it. And inside he was confronted by a hologram of Minerva, who claimed to be one of those who came before. He wanted so many questions, but he couldn't have his answers. Minerva seemed to be speaking with someone else, something else, some time else, someone named Desmond. She explained that in 200 years, Desmond would be needed to stop the end of the world. And then she vanished, leaving Ezio confused and with more unanswered questions than he had before he walked into this vault. Ezio was going to destroy the Apple of Eden after all of this because he knew the power it contained needed to be removed. But his Uncle Mario told him that they should just keep it hidden. The assassins can guard it. And with that, they went back to their home, the villa up in the mountains. Ezio would finally go home, telling the tale of what happened to everyone. But he was actually shunned by one of the assassins for not finishing off Borgia. But Ezio figured everything was done with them. The Borgias were gone, weren't they? I mean, he did allow them to live. It's not like they would come back for revenge. But the next morning, Ezio would be woken up as the walls of his villa were rocked. Outside the window, he could see an army amassing against him. It would appear that the Borgias were far from done with him. And if you want to know what happened in Assassin's Creed 2, make sure you stick around to this channel. Thank you for listening to our story, and we'll see you next time here at Eligible Monster.